Welcome to Oktoberfest 2021. Won't you join us?
Are you ready to record? Because we are recording.
Oh, you always catch me with a mouthful of coffee.
Welcome back once again to the Project Gen X podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alan Smith, along with...
I'm the coffee-sipping Big Dave.
And we just, like half an hour ago, left the theater from seeing Halloween Kills.
I'm not even going to lie. I'm like so geeked, I'm bouncing off the walls right now.
Dave, this was Dave's first time seeing it. I actually went Thursday evening because I was home alone and had nothing else to do. I was like, I'll go see it again. Because if it's good, I want to go back and see it again. And if it's bad, I want to make sure that it's bad. I've done that with movies before. I'm like, I think it's bad, but let me go make sure.
So you go waste some money on it to make sure it's bad?
But I knew you were real excited. I was really excited for this movie, too. Of course, we were supposed to have gotten it in 2020, but, you know,
right.
Theaters being closed down. But what's kind of cool, though, is since we didn't get the movie in 2020.
The third one's already
done.
It's already in the can waiting for next year.
So we're going to get Halloween Dies.
Halloween Dies.
I thought it was Halloween Ends.
No, I think
Am I wrong? Okay.
I think it's Halloween Dies.
Something's going to happen to it next year. So
I've got a really bad feeling this is Carpenter putting a nail in the coffin of Michael Myers, actually.
Well, you know, Carpenter is only producing these. He hasn't had anything else to do. Well, he did the music.
Well, it's actually him and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, and it was one of those things that before we get into the movie, we need to go over a little bit of the history of the Halloween franchise. And
it's Danny McBride.
Yeah, Danny
producing
McBride
and helping write these things.
What's the other guy's name?
I can't think of his name.
Something Gordon.
I can't pull it right now.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's one of those, you know, of course, the first Halloween came out in 1978. It was John Carpenter, very low budget. It did extremely well until The Phantom Menace. It was the most successful independent film of all time.
Yeah.
Because it legitimately was an independent film.
Well, most of the money was raised to do that thing in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where I went to college.
Right, because that Carpenter, his dad
was the head of the music department
there when he was a kid, and you know, so it was one of those things.
Everybody's heard me tell this story over and over again because I gush over Carpenter a little bit.
So, but the thing is you know, of course, the original Halloween was a massive success. So, of course, the movie studio was like, "Hey, we got to get another one," and Carpenter did not want to make another film.
No,
and
the idea was to have a different story.
Actually, I just watched a video on it not long ago of him talking about Halloween 2. Like, he actually said in an interview that he thought that Halloween 2 was an abomination.
Well, yeah.
And it was one of those things that they brought him back, and then he was like, he had an idea of... John Carpenter's original idea for Halloween 2, since they were going to make it another Michael Myers movie, was that he wanted to set it in a high-rise building. Like, several years later. Yeah, that was the original plan. That was the idea he came up with. He was
haven't heard this story before.
He said he wanted it to be several years later, and it was going to be set in a high-rise building. The movie studio, once they they said, no, we don't want to do that, and he said, fine, I don't want anything to do with it. They kind of took the high-rise part of it and transferred that over to a hospital.
Yeah.
They were the ones that came up with the whole her being his sister.
Yeah.
And that was not a John Carpenter thing by any stretch of the imagination. And basically just continuing it right directly after the first one ended.
It was basically just an extension of
Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah, it really was. And so it was one of those things that it was not. John Carpenter didn't have a whole lot to do with it, other than he was a producer because he was a president. Halloween 3, even though Season of the Witch, even though he didn't have anything to do with it, again, he was a producer. But that's what he kind of said. Okay, if we're going to do another one, I want it to be an anthology series.
Right.
And
I wish they would kind of.
Halloween 3 has been reclaimed. Okay, it has
It
been.
really
It really
has
has.
been.
We talked about it last year. We've got an episode about Halloween 3 and how good it is. You can. We can draw lines to get all of this stuff,
Yeah.
And then, of course, with Halloween 4, it was several years even further beyond that, because Halloween 3 did not do well because of it not being attached to Michael Myers.
Right.
And so when they came back with what's his name, Mustafa Akkad,
he basically owns all the property
right.
on it.
And so he was like, all right, look, we're going back to the Michael Myers well here. They couldn't get Jamie Lee Curtis on board. They tried.
Yeah.
And she said no, she was done with it. So that's why we get the whole she died off.
Yes.
And then it was she was killed in a car wreck, but she had an infant daughter, and that's where we get Jamie, I forget what her name was. It wasn't Strode, it was Jamie
because she changed her name. So
and then
could
she
be
found out. So it was hype stuff. So it was one of those things where, it was the Daniel Harris playing her, And so it was one of those things, they did 2 movies that way. And then they took a long break again before The Curse of Michael Myers.
Right.
Which is just terrible.
Well, they also made a reference to it in this movie.
They said The Curse of Michael.
They said
the Curse of Michael.
They said
The Curse of Michael
They said
Myers.
the real curse of Michael Myers is while they're sitting there.
I don't think she said the Myers, but it was that whole. Yeah, I get. Yeah. There's a lot of references.
They make a lot of callbacks to even the bad movies.
And and then it was one of those things that they came back with H2O. 20 years later, they did get Jamie Lee Curtis back. They retconned that in that she faked the car wreck.
Right.
They never once mentioned the daughter, and she had a son instead. Okay. Then they got her to come back for Halloween Resurrection, and she was like, "Look, if this is, just kill me off." And they did.
Right.
The very first, it was kind of one of
right
those
in the
things.
beginning.
Right in the beginning, just go ahead and get it over with. And that was it as far as all of that timeline. Then we get the 2 Rob Zombie movies, which were outside of all of it.
I see those as 2 separate.
Those are 2 separate
movies.
over there. And
that's Rob Zombie playing with that storyline.
Right.
And people hate on that movie.
It's good. I like it.
If you take those 2 movies and leave them as standalone movies.
2 is not good. I've tried. I've tried and tried. Again, that, like I said earlier, I watched it and was like, man, that wasn't good. And then I tried watching it a second time. I watched it the second time, but I could not stay focused on it because it was so bad. And then I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I'm always like, this is just so bad. I mean, it's like there are some good ideas
I can understand
there.
that.
There's some good ideas there. The execution. And now again,
but then
that had a
you're
lot
talking
to
about,
do with the studio.
Well, you're also talking about Rob Zombie, who is basically playing with the whole film genre thing. Every movie he does, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah,
it's either
and again,
be,
he did callbacks. It opens up with the whole hospital. Like you think that you're getting Halloween 2, and there's several other things in there. So, anyways, in 2018, we get Halloween. It's just called Halloween again.
Halloween 2018.
Yeah. And so it's kind of the thing, because we saw the trailer. We'd seen it, but we'd seen the trailer for Scream, the new Scream tonight, which is just called Scream. I hate that they keep doing that.
That doesn't bother me.
It bothers me because it's like we have 3 movies named Halloween that are all Michael Myers.
Well, you've got the original 70s. You've got Halloween 78.
You've got the Rob Zombie Halloween, and then you've got Halloween 2018.
It sounds like we don't have a problem to me. Because we've got Halloween 78, we've got Zombie Halloween,
but they're all just called Halloween.
And we've got Halloween 18.
And then, and it's the same thing. Now we have 2 movies called Scream.
Right. So it's Scream 2021.
And they've done that with several. I forget. I can't off the top of my head think of some of the other ones that they've done like that. But it seems like it's one of those things where like they get several into a franchise, and they're like, oh, just call it the first one. And they did the same thing. It was like we had Final Destination, then we had The Final Destination, which wound up not being The Final Destination. There was another one even after that. And I mean, and it's like it's crazy.
The problem is they can't ever get where they're going.
Saw. They did the same thing with Saw. Remember?
I don't even want to get into Saw because I've never enjoyed.
But there are two movies called Saw in that franchise.
I've never enjoyed
just
Saw.
I didn't either.
The fact that they've continued that storyline on with a different storyline with Spiral
horror BS that I just
the torture
cannot get
porn
into.
stuff, I hate it.
I know. So anyway, now that we've gone, so now it's one of the things. So we're up to speed on now. Now what happened with Halloween 2018 is that it basically erases
everything all the way back to the original movie.
Yeah, it's just the first one
including
happened.
Halloween 2.
Right. The first one happened, and then this one happened, and then Halloween 2018 happened, and then Halloween Kills, and then it will be Halloween Dies or Ends, whatever we're calling it. I'm looking that up just to make sure. And you absolutely could be correct. It could just be the headcanon that I have.
I'd be willing to put $5 on it. Come on, $5.
Halloween Ends.
Oh no, really?
I told you.
I lost $5.
2022.
Dang.
I told you. See, Halloween Ends right there at IMDb. So,
see that really it really should be Halloween Dies.
Halloween Ends makes more sense. Just because it's finally over. Especially we've had this 40-plus year journey.
So we get to the theater. We got to talk about the previews.
Hold on. Yeah, so basically what happened is that...
Sorry, I thought you were finished.
No,
you
I'm
took
just
a
kind
breath.
of... So we go from the original Halloween, and we skip ahead 40 years later.
Right.
To Halloween 2018. Legitimately, it's supposed to have happened in 2018.
Yeah, just call it Halloween 18.
And... which is kind of cool because this movie that we just saw is a direct continuation, so it's Halloween 2018 still.
yes, it is.
It's still stuck in the past. Trump's still president. You know, it's like we're still at war in Afghanistan. It's like we haven't had a global pandemic.
No.
We have no sleepy Joe Biden.
You had to go there? Come on. I'm geeked out about a great horror movie, and you have to go there.
Anyway, it picks up, like I said, 40 years later.
Right.
Just a brief recap. There were these two podcasters that were doing a series about Michael Myers.
We're talking about killing. Halloween 18,
right?
Yeah.
And
investigative journalist,
whatever. They're a couple of podcasters,
yeah.
And they go to the hospital and they go to talk to Michael Myers, and of course he's not saying anything. He hasn't said anything in 40 years at all. Loomis they've known that Loomis died years prior. There's a new successor. It's even funny because Laurie says, "Oh, you're the new Loomis." Whenever she meets him, you know, like it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's a little on the nose, but it makes sense," you know.
Yeah.
And then all of that plays out. Of course, he breaks out of as always happens in the movie. Whenever they're transferring him somewhere, he breaks out, and then he gets back out on the.
And come to find out, that his new doctor
is helping him. We find that out. Yeah, that was an interesting swerve I did not see coming.
He's a psychic killer fanboy,
and then we also find out that quite literally that Laurie Strode has created a death house for him. Like it was all set up to lure him there, to trap him and burn the house to the ground, burn him to death
with him in the basement,
and that's how it ends. The house is on fire,
right?
And that's
it. They've managed to catch a ride on a truck.
Yeah, they're going heading back to town because she's been stabbed, and they're heading to the hospital. So we pick up right where that ends, kind of. I mean, we get a little bit of a there was a Hawkins. It was the Officer Hawkins that. Did we ever actually meet him? We didn't ever actually meet him in the original Halloween, did we?
We didn't actually meet him. He was a nameless background character.
So
in the original
they
Halloween.
take a step. Our first thing they find is that we assume that he died in the first one. We come to find out he was not dead. He was found, and so they're getting him to the hospital. And then they take a step back to Halloween 1978.
Right.
And you see a rookie Hawkins. Chasing down Michael Myers. It's the same night, I mean, it's literally he sees him and go into an alleyway, and he takes a couple shots at him, and he runs down there, and he's gone. There's blood, but he's gone.
Yeah.
And so they're going around trying to find. They wind up back in the Myers house with his partner, and of course they get attacked by Michael Myers, and his partner winds up dying. We're not going to spoil everything here. His partner winds up dying in all of it.
Yeah.
It's his fault. But we get Dr. Loomis. Like a legit doctor. Like, they did a really good job. I don't know who they had standing in for him. I know in the 2018 movie, you have those recordings of Loomis.
Right.
And the person who did that wasn't actually Donald Pleasance. They had somebody imitating his, who did a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
Same thing here. They had somebody standing in who they CG'd that looked. They did the right thing.
Yeah.
He's in enough shadow to where it's not like Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, where you saw just way too much of that CGI Peter Cushing.
Right.
Like, it's like, oh no, you should have never put that out in the light. That should, it's
no, it looks
still
really good.
Yeah, but this one was really good because they shadowed it enough, and you could see enough of it to where it's like, oh dude, that looks like Donald Pleasance.
Yeah,
it
really does.
And it's only for a little bit. They didn't do like big, long, extended scenes. I mean, literally, you see him for like 2 little scenes, and that's all you needed. And then we meet. So it jumps into the and it's showing Lori and Karen and Allison, her the family, the back of the truck they're driving, and you see
the fire
trucks coming the other way, and she's screaming, "No, let it burn, let it burn, let it burn." Credits, and then we're getting into the movie.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you right there because
I know you want to say some stuff.
You've had too much coffee, and you have had the last 10 minutes have been one big run-on sentence from you. Mm-hmm. I wanted to actually get into...
If you ever listen to this podcast, you know that anything I say is just one long...
Yeah, but you've had too much coffee at this point.
And not enough sleep.
I wanted to actually stop before we got into the movie and talk about the previews at the front end of this movie.
Want to talk about the previews, okay.
I mean, we got some pretty good previews.
Well, why don't we save the previews for the end while we're actually done with this? Since we're actually in the middle of our discussion. All right,
you
fine.
kind of ran it over into the beginning of the movie.
So
I haven't been able to get a word in edgewise so far, and I'm the one that's geeked about the movie.
Dave wants to relay the entire experience from the time that we got into the theater to the.
This is like the second time I've been in a movie theater since COVID happened.
See, I've gone just about every weekend for the last couple months. So.
I love movies. I love the big screen. I love the surround sound. You know what I hate about movies?
People.
I
know. The same thing with this one. Because people were rattling all their food and everything around us.
Well, they were talking. They were on their cell phones.
I know.
Cut it out,
was it just me, or was there a kid in there?
No, there was several kids.
And I mean like little kids. And I'm like I said, I had seen the movie the previous night.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, no, this is not a movie for kids. It is
there was
gory.
There was some 7, 8, 9,
gory.
maybe 10-year-olds in there. So we get a preview for Antlers.
Mm-hmm. This is an interesting horror movie that slid under my radar until this week.
Right. It gets over into Native American folklore.
Into the
Wendigo. Folklore.
It looks pretty good. It's got Kerry Russell.
Yep.
This is the only person and what's his name? Fat Matt Damon. What's his name? You know who I'm talking about.
He was one of the main characters in Breaking Bad also.
He was?
Yeah, he was.
You know who I'm talking about.
And he's married to somebody that you would never believe.
I know.
Pull his name.
I'm pulling it. Hold on. Keep talking about this.
But it's set in what I assume is the Northwest because of the settings and all that. And there's evidently a young boy that is caring for this thing, and it escapes, and mayhem starts. And it's as dark of a preview as I've seen in a little while.
Jesse Plemons.
Yes. Yes. Even his name sounds chunky.
Yeah.
I say that as a fat guy. Who's he married to? You already closed it out, didn't you? Yeah, it's like somebody you're like, holy crap, he's married to her?
I was really surprised when I heard.
He's like me. He married up.
Jesse Plemons. Of course, it doesn't say who he's married to.
Oh, see, that figures. Oh, he's like me. He married up.
But what's funny is you go back and look at pictures of him, and he was all thin and.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I get it. I've put weight on since I've gotten older. I get it. Anyways, go ahead. I'll look up his wife.
We got that one, and then we got some previews that are like throwaways. We got House of Gucci, where they're doing the whole Gucci story, and who knows if it's even real. Then we get the Scream trailer.
Yeah, but that's got Lady Gaga.
I
And
knew that would get your attention.
I was like, okay, I can. She looked just from the trailer. I'm like, she's going to be good in this. This is fine. She's playing an Italian.
Well, you've also
She's
got Adam Driver.
Yes. You've got Al Pacino.
Yeah. This is an all-star cast, actually.
Was it Ridley Scott is directing it?
Yep.
And who else? There was so much. Because it's one of those things, they start... Salma Hayek. They
Yep.
start going through all the Academy Award-winning and nominated...
It's
bang, 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 bang,
It's going to
bang,
be a star-studded cast. I don't know how well it's going to do, though.
We'll see.
Then we get the Scream trailer, which I'm actually excited about a Scream film again for the first time in a long time. Which, that one looks amazing. And then you pointed out the preview of One Night in Soho.
Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
that's who he's married to. There you go.
Yeah.
One Night in Soho. I saw this trailer a couple of months ago, and it's Edgar Wright that did this.
Yeah.
And it looks to be a murder time travel horror movie of some sort.
Almost Ghost Story.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's got Anya Taylor-Joy and was that Matt Smith? Is that who it is? I think it's Matt Smith. Hold on, let me
I think
pull it
that's
up.
right.
And then I can't remember the other girl's name. I should just keep IMDb
He
pulled
played
up here.
Yeah, he played Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think it's Matt Smith.
Yeah.
One Night in Soho. Or maybe I'm completely wrong on that. It has Thomasin McKenzie. I don't know. I've seen her, but I can't tell you who. Anya Taylor-Joy. Wow. I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, there you go. So that actually looks like that
I
one's...
thought for sure that was Matt Smith, but apparently it's not.
That actually looks like that's actually going to be fairly interesting. I may have to catch that one. And then we got a preview for a movie called Black Phone that is a straight-up psychological thriller / ghost story / psychic story. You're looking at it going, I think this is going to suck.
It is Matt Smith. Yeah, I don't know why it wasn't listed. That's definitely him.
Okay.
It's crazy.
I think Black Phone's looking like that's going to be a pretty good movie, and Alan has already been like, that's going to be garbage.
I didn't say it was garbage. I said the only thing that has me even remotely excited about that movie is the fact that it's Ethan Hawke playing the bad guy in it, like playing the villain.
I have no problems with that.
Oh, I know. I was like, I think I could, but I don't know. It's a little too... We've seen that story before, you know.
Have we, though?
Yeah, I think in some way. Kid's abducted, and his best friend is having psychic dreams about where he is, and then the ghosts of the other kids who've been abducted and killed start talking to him through this phone that's not plugged in, and
right.
And he like has to fight to try to get out, and it's just I think it's a little might be a little much for me. So.
I think it's going to be a good movie. I feel like it's going to be kind of like a nail biter type thing.
Are we done with previews now?
Well, I'm excited that we're getting what looks like it could be 4 decent, at least ghost stories.
We've gotten a lot more of that type of movie this year than we seems to have in years past, and I think that's because of the logjam that didn't happen last year.
Could be,
and so they've kind of pushed them all. Okay, well, we're getting a lot of 2020 releases in 2021 and a lot of 2021 releases in 2021. So you're kind of getting that, which I'm fine with.
Absolutely okay with.
There are enough movies between now and January that justifies my Regal Unlimited. I'm planning. I know at least 7 or 8 movies that I'm going to go see between now and then. So
no, I get it.
We still have Ghostbusters Afterlife. We got the Eternals. We got Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right.
We've got several of the movies we just mentioned there.
I haven't been to see Spawn or not Spawn.
Venom. I saw
Venom
that one.
yet.
Venom,
I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen Shang-Chi yet.
Shang-Chi. I enjoyed Shang-Chi.
I need
quite a bit,
to see that one.
All right.
I will probably wait for that one to hit Disney Plus. So Laurie Strode, her daughter, and her granddaughter are on the way to the hospital while Michael is supposedly burning in the basement of this death house.
And we saw this in the trailer.
Yeah, all of this is in the trailer.
The firemen show up.
He murders the entire fire squad.
Now, I'll say that, and this we're going to get into a little bit of spoilers. I like the way they explain this away.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah,
spoiler alert!
Because
spoiler alert.
The end of that last movie, it's one of those things we see him looking up, and the fire is engulfing, and then they get out of the house, and then it cuts back, and you're looking back down into the basement, and Michael is not there.
Yeah, he's gone.
And so it's kind of one of those like, okay, what happened? Because it's like, no, this thing was designed for him to be trapped, and it's burning, like the entire house is burning down, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
What was really interesting, one of the firemen goes in and falls through
the floor,
and all of a sudden, one of the roll down cages that or roll down doors that Laurie had in there, where her ammunition and guns in there,
and guns
rolls up, and Michael steps out. It's like, oh, okay. Now, granted, that would get really hot in there with the aluminum door and everything else, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But we've established that Michael Myers is not
human.
Yes, and we get a lot more of that in this movie.
Yeah, he's not human at all.
We get to see original, not necessarily all the original actors that played these roles, but we get to see original characters from the from the 78 Halloween. We get Tommy Doyle.
Tommy Doyle's back.
The nurse, I'm going to look it up here because...
The nurse who got pulled out of the car at the Smiths Grove's insane asylum.
When she was...
The original attack. Who was the little girl that was over at Tommy Doyle's?
Hold on, I'm picking it up here.
Her babysitter,
Lindsay.
Yes, the character Lindsay is in this one.
Marion was the doctor.
Yeah. You get Lonnie, who was the kid that was getting picked on.
Yeah, and he also was he's Allison's boyfriend's dad, the one that they talked about in the first. We finally meet him here, and it's funny to see Lonnie whenever they're talking about her dad, and he's telling the exact same story that her dad told about him, but it's like, rather than Lonnie selling her dad peyote, it's the other way around.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's funny to hear that, like, they have different... Everybody's like, no, it was him. No, it
was the other guy.
Yeah.
Like, your dad got freaked out by his own reflection in his leg,
and
took his pants off
and jumped in. Yeah, no, it's a...
Why is it... What? I don't understand this. When people get high, why are they taking their pants off? I don't understand it. It just...
I don't know.
Leave your pants on. Nobody needs to see that.
Yeah, well, it happens. That's all I'm saying. That's all I can say about that. But yeah, so it's... I don't want to go beat by beat on this because I just want to go over some observations.
I don't want to... That's as far into the movie I really want to go, because everything we've said so far you've seen in the trailers.
And one other thing. Basically, this is the town of Haddonfield versus Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Is basically what the plot of this movie is. I have a theory about this movie, and it goes back because I did rewatch the 2018 movie the other night.
Yeah.
And really, I started putting it together on the first watch of Halloween Kills, but especially today, I really started putting some of this together.
Okay.
In 2018, when the two podcasters go in the opening scene where they go to the mental institution, and they're standing out there, and it's one of those things that the guy pulls out the mask, and is showing it to Michael, and Michael never turns around, but it's one of those things you kind of see him react a little bit. Like he never turns around completely, but you kind of see him motion just a little bit. Never says anything.
You can tell that he can tell the mask is there.
And it's kind of they talk about that, and that's like when he gets out, first thing he does is he goes and he finds them and he gets the mask.
Right.
Okay. And then we go all the way through that. Okay. In this one, there is that scene when he's attacking at the playground.
Yes.
And he's attacking Lindsay. And she reaches up and pushes his mask, starts to, pulls on his mask.
Right.
And he stops and lets her go and starts to put the mask back on, and she runs off.
Right.
And then toward the end of the movie, whenever Karen attacks him, and she takes his mask away, and he starts going after her.
Because she's got his mask.
And basically she leads him into a trap, and it's really kind of after he puts the mask back on that he kind of like starts powering up again. There's something with that mask that's giving him the power.
The fact that we got a call back to the Silver Shamrock mask in 18.
And they're in this one
and
too.
It was just a glimpse.
Yeah, and it was enough of like, oh, that's really cool. And then in this one, we see them again.
This one, not only do you see them, they're a major part of it, but you also see the Silver Shamrock emblem on the back of the mask.
The one. So I'm wondering if they're going to try to say that they're all, but we haven't seen the emblem on the shape mask, though. Is the whole thing. So
the shape mask at this point is going to have been so old.
Yeah,
that's probably.
But that's
come
what
off.
was just. I just that was an observation I really made this time.
No,
it's the mask. There's something with the mask that gives him his power, because it's after, especially that at the end, whenever they've got him trapped.
Right.
When he puts that mask
back on,
it's. All of a sudden, he becomes invulnerable almost.
He got his Mario Kart mushroom.
Yeah, and so I've kind of I'm interested to see what's going to happen going forward here.
Yeah,
this is.
I wonder if they're going to finally tie this into season
maybe,
of the Witch.
I don't know. We'll see.
And the whole Druid and the
because it's one of it's because of the internet age that we live in. Last night after I watched the movie. I saw some stuff on social media.
Of course.
The typical people who were fans of the original stuff hate it because, it's not exactly what they wanted. It's
screw
the
them.
Star Wars stuff all over,
Screw them.
And I'm like, all right, fine. One thing that I kept hearing over and over again from people who didn't like it was that this movie had way too much talking in it.
Oh, come on.
And
could you nitpick anymore?
And the fact that Lori is kind of sidelined from us was like, well, yeah, she was stabbed and had surgery. She's going to be sidelined for a big portion of this.
She wasn't just stabbed. She was like half gutted.
Yeah, well, and they talk about, you get the dropped lines during the surgery when they're showing the surgery,
right,
where the doctor says, nothing major was punctured. She's going to be sore for a while and needs to be careful,
Yeah, but you're looking at her entire lower torso opened up,
exactly,
where they're putting her back together.
Right, and so it's one of those things where like they're kind of setting up the whole. Yeah, she's hurt, but it's not like fatal, or anything. Great movie speak, isn't it? Just flesh wound, basically.
Well, she even makes that kind of comment.
I know.
It's a paper cut.
Yeah, something like that. I will tell you my one. It's a critique. It's not even a complaint, but
okay.
I think this movie is about half an hour too long.
Okay, I can see some areas where they could have trimmed.
I'll tell you exactly.
I'm not going to argue with you on that one because I think you may be a little right on that.
I'll tell you exactly what they could have taken out of this movie.
Okay.
Or shortened it down to next to nothing, and it would have made this movie streamlined a whole lot better.
All right.
And it also would not be as clunky nor as preachy if they had taken all that crap out at the hospital with the second mental patient.
Yeah.
They take all of that out, and they could have streamlined that down to 5 minutes rather than that big long section that we have.
No, you're absolutely right.
And
I can't even argue with you on that.
But other than that,
it felt like the movie dragged a little bit with the hospital scene.
Yeah, it did. Okay, during that hospital scene, I noticed it last night, and it caught my attention again tonight watching it.
Okay.
When they're chasing him through the hospital and they're all going up the stairs and you see Tommy and the sheriff and all that kind of stuff, there's this one little scene as it shows them coming up the stairs. They're coming around one flight of stairs and going up the other, and everybody's like, ah. There's this one guy who's wearing a hospital gown. He's this really skinny, like skinny beanpole guy.
Yeah.
And he's like clapping and laughing. Like he's like just enjoying this so much. Like running up there, and I'm like, what was that?
Hospitals generally have a psych ward of their own.
But I was like, that's wild. Like I was like, it's like I said, it was like a second long.
Well, not only that,
it was long enough for me to catch it both times.
How many of those? Hey,
Lola.
No.
She's like, I want to get in on this.
No. That's my coffee.
And Dave's got a new friend over here, so Lola will not be denied.
No, she will not. But how many of the other passengers that were on that asylum bus got taken to the hospital for injuries and all that.
That's true, and I think because they were all captured except for the two.
Right.
There was that dude was saying, I think they showed his name on the television or something. I don't think they ever said it. And then
I think
Michael,
he was.
that's the
I
only
think he
two.
was actually one of them that was chained up out there with Michael.
Yeah, he was. We
Yeah.
saw him in the first. He was like one of the guys that I think he was the first. He was kind of like screaming whenever they pulled the mask out
Right,
and everything.
yeah.
You know. So yeah, I mean, it's the other complaint that I heard on this is that all this movie was a bridge to the third one, and I'm like, yes, it was. This was a trilogy.
Yes.
This is the middle part. This is the. I'm not comparing the two, but this is the Empire Strikes Back of this trilogy.
Right.
Of it bridges the gap, or it bridges between the setup and what we're going to get for the finish later. But
Well,
it
also
greatly expands the story and moves it along.
You get backstory.
Yes.
You get character depth building.
I really enjoyed learning about Hawkins in
Yes.
78, like all of that, because you get so much more because like his partner talks in the beginning about he grew up with Michael Myers.
Right.
And like he said, he's like, yeah, my mom used to make me go over to play with him, and all he would ever do was just stand up in his sister's room and look out the window.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, okay, well, this is more, it's Tate. When Tate scratches, he moves the entire floor.
The entire house started
I've got a Great
shaking.
Pyrenees. He lives with my ex-wife now, but he's still, like, they're out of town, so I have, you know.
Yeah, all the dogs.
And I have all the dogs. And Tate is a Great Pyrenees, full-blood Great Pyrenees, weighs about 110 pounds. And so
he's a big
huge.
boy.
When he scratches... When he scratches and his foot comes down on the ground, it moves the floor.
It felt like we were having a tremor here.
And he's in my bedroom, and we can still hear it and feel
Yeah.
it in it. So it's
Yeah.
so anyway, so you probably heard that in the background. Maybe, I don't know, with our Halloween noises in the background, you might not hear it, but you never know, because I still hear the dogs like running around through here and stuff. Anyway, so and I'll tell you the other complaint, and I can't say that it was wrong, but it didn't bother me as much as some other stuff that I've seen. Okay, the whole when you get the mob mentality, you know, when basically Tommy gets the town together, they become this mob, and they start chanting the whole, you know, evil ends tonight.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, well, see, they're making a political statement here. They're making this whole, you know, the unwashed masses, and you know, it's all of this and that. It's like, yes, it is.
It's
it
the
is,
French Revolution
or whatever, you know. But it's one of those things, and I guarantee you, that's not what they were going for.
we're
not going to talk about it.
That's the reason I went the other direction.
We're not going to talk about it, but it's still one of those things where it's like, look, it's still not as heavy-handed as some other stuff that I've seen in the last couple of years. I will say this though, I love the movie. I really did. Like I said, I've seen it twice now, and since it's on Peacock, I guarantee you I will probably watch it again before the weekend's out.
Yeah, okay.
And I have Peacock, so that's you know. I came away with this, and I told Dave this as soon as the movie was over. I was like, everyone's couple costumes this year should be Big John and Little John. They are two of my favorite new characters in movies ever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was almost like having a little bit of comic relief.
A little bit, but it was also one of those things. Again, it moved the story along because they had moved into the old Myers house, and they knew it was the old Myers house,
and they were using it to scare the kids.
Yeah. Right? And you know, and it was kind of that whole, you know, Haddonville being a little more progressive, you know, and having a gay couple living there, and they've obviously gone and they made the house so much nicer than it was before, and all that kind of stuff.
I would have lived there.
And you know, yeah, and it was just kind of, but it was just such a. I love those characters. They were awesome. I love them.
I want his vinyl collection. That's
what
I want.
I know. Oh, I love the Anne Murray song. When that started playing, I was like, as soon as it started, I was like, "Hey, Anne Murray! Wow, that is a deep." I know.
Who knew that Michael Myers was an Anne Murray fan?
I know.
Because you know he had to go through that vinyl collection and pick that one out.
I know, and it's just the other thing about this movie,
that actually adds a little depth to Michael.
I'll tell you one other thing about this movie that I saw some complaints on, and I understand it kinda.
Okay.
Is all the gore, because it is really gory.
I have no problem with that.
I know. It didn't quite go to torture porn, you know, gore. But
This-
it's got some really, really brutal.
I'm sorry,
kills.
this was a throwback to 80s
Oh,
slasher
this went
flicks.
beyond that.
I don't know
man,
about that because I remember some of those 80s slasher flicks being
They weren't
fairly
like
gory.
that, though. I mean, they're talking about graphic, some of that stuff that happens in it. So
I'm sorry, I
But
loved
dude,
it.
when the mental patient falls off of the building
Yeah,
and hits, and they show it.
yeah.
And like show him laying there with his arm like broken up above his head, his head busted
No,
open.
his
It
arm
like,
was ripped completely off.
Yeah, because the way he hit, but it
Yeah.
was like, basically his arm's laying above his head, and his head is busted wide open.
Yeah, and his
Like,
other
I mean,
arm is laying right next
yeah,
to the other
and
arm.
it's just- it
like
was
his
like-
leg was in pieces.
Oh man, yeah, I
and
know, but
I was
not
like-
even just that. That's just the tip of the iceberg, or some of the stuff that happens in this.
One of my favorite kills was where he took the fluorescent bulb and broke the end of it off.
Shoved in that woman's neck,
shoved it
and
in
then
that
twisted it
Yeah.
and broke it off.
I
I
was
mean,
like,
that was just
that's
like,
an
oh,
original
man.
kill.
That well, I did like that one.
That's a very original kill.
Other thing that I liked about this movie, there was nothing wasted from the first movie. Okay, I watched it again night before last, and
Right.
I'm glad I did because I picked up some stuff that I probably wouldn't have if I hadn't watched the movie recently.
Okay.
Like whenever Michael was walking back down the street in the first movie, and he comes up on that couple that's dressed like the nurse and the doctor who were leaving the house. He's like, I can't find my stethoscope, and he goes and gets in
Yeah.
the car, and they drive off. We get those characters back,
Yes.
and they talk about whenever the news reports goes like, "Hey, that's on our street. That's that kid. That's that little asshole kid that lives across the street." As he said, like those are our neighbors that got killed, type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that like all these little characters that we saw.
It's very well planned
Again,
out.
with the returning mental patient,
Right.
from the first one, it's like it's very
Well,
like
we got a couple of them.
we get all of that stuff back from the first one, and
There
so-
are no throwaways.
no, and I really like
You
that.
really need to go and watch.
Watch them back to
Halloween
back.
18 before you go to the movie theater and see this.
very
one.
much, or you will miss some stuff because I literally it was one of those things from rewatching the movie the night on Wednesday night
Right.
and then going last night and seeing it again. That scene with them going and getting in the car and then
Right.
him like, I got to go back in and get my stethoscope, and then they coming back out. It's a little throwaway scene of like, it's just these two characters, these big,
No, you
these,
completely
and then
get 'em
we
back.
get a lot of them until
Oh, yeah.
until a certain point, and then it's like, okay, well that's cool that they are coming back on
Right.
all of this,
Now,
So,
what I've noticed, what you say, you've got little critiques and complaints about
Right.
some of the storytelling elements. I didn't have a whole lot of that. Yeah, the hospital scene drug, and it got a little
Yeah.
preachy. Yeah, okay, that's
again, these are not my the drug that it drags. Yes.
Yeah.
The other ones are not. None of that stuff was any complaints that I
Yeah.
had. That's stuff that I read that other people had problem with. So,
the stuff that I noticed that I really, really loved is when you were in modern day, you were in modern day.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to the throwbacks, where they very obviously went back and tried to match the film grade,
yes,
style
It very
and the
much
film
feels like it. I
Yeah,
know.
and it very much feels like you're pulling scenes directly out of the first
Mm-hmm.
film. There were places where the modern day and the old actually kind of blended together because you've got modern day Michael and you've got a modern day kill, but the kill is in the old film grain.
And we get some throwback to the characters, the actual stills from the. They show Lindsay's babysitter,
Right.
They show that scene from it was Brackett. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's Brackett's daughter. That they show there.
Right.
And then. They have that other scene where they're showing the photos of the people that were killed in '78 on the television screen, and you actually get pictures of the people in those.
I mean, they went to great lengths to try to color match and film grain match a lot of those scenes. I like the fact that for some of the kills, they very much went back to all practical effects. There's one scene where Michael physically takes his thumbs and runs it in somebody's eye sockets and crushes the head.
Yep.
And it's that old school 80s physical, we made a fake head and squeezed everything.
That stuff plays so much better than CG.
Oh, yeah.
Like so much better than
And
CG.
you can
Same thing with the fire.
Yes.
Like, you could tell that. I'm sure there was some CG that was in
To
there
make it bigger and
but
uglier.
There was real flames in some
Yeah.
in that stuff too, because you don't get it to look like that in CG.
Right.
You can always tell the CG fire. Always.
And other things I noticed is like the lighting design. Like that scene where Lonnie's kid finds the sheriff. I can't think of his name right now. The one that the doctor stabbed in the neck with the
Hawkins. Yeah.
If you notice in the background the tree line, how they actually like lit the trees kind of halfway into the woods. I mean, some of the lighting design in this thing is amazing.
Oh, and there was also the callback with what was his friend's name? He's trying to call him. Remember, he's the one that gets impaled on the fence.
Right.
He's still hanging there. Was it Oliver or Arthur or something?
Something like that.
And then we see him later in the morgue. His mom finds him. Like when
Right.
she's running through the hospital, she didn't know that he was gone.
But-
It's
But like the audio design on this thing was amazing. The lighting design on this thing was really good. The craft of the film itself really.
Oh, I know.
I loved it.
I know. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I'll be honest. It was one of those things. And I admit this is one of the things. I'm really bad about loving a movie when I see it initially,
Yeah.
and then having some time to think about it, and kind of start picking it apart.
Right.
So going back into this a second time,
Sure.
within 24 hours, I was really kind of nervous of like, is this not going to be as good as I remember? And it wound up being as good as I remember. And I loved it. I cannot wait for Halloween ends. So you got me saying it now. Halloween ends next year.
I think that's what it should be. I think they need to rename it.
And it's also going to be interesting, especially with the way it ended. We're not going to go into any spoilers here.
Right.
To see the ramifications
You
of it.
still need to put that spoiler alert on the front of the episode.
But the ramifications of it is going to be tremendous. And, the body count in this thing
it's
is
huge.
Huge. And on top of that, a lot of people you didn't think were going to die in this.
Yes,
that's
they
all I'm
do.
going to say. It's like, wow, they did that. Wow, they did that.
They're going through and killing their darlings.
They have put stakes in these movies.
Yes.
It seems like no one's above killing off. And even with some stuff that was said in dialogue in this, it's like, I have a feeling that's what we're heading to.
Everybody is up for grabs.
Yeah.
Everybody is up for grabs.
So,
including Michael himself.
yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what the next movie brings.
I can't wait. I am so geeked on this
in.
movie right now. I'm bouncing off the walls. I would go see it again right now.
And I'm sure that without a doubt there are people out there who saw the movie who don't like it, who are listening to this, and that's fine. We're all entitled to our opinions,
even if they're wrong.
Even if they're wrong, and I'll admit, I mean, I've said this before. Dave and I were actually having this discussion earlier today about some stuff. I was like, look, I always look at this movies like pop culture in general, whereas movies and music, television, books, whatever it is, they're all subjective. Every bit of them are subjective. What I might like, Dave might not like. What Dave might like, I might think is terrible. I mean, just whatever, and that's fine. We'll give each other crap for it, but ultimately it's like, oh, it's fine, whatever. I always go back to music. Okay, that's usually my
that's
my
my
baseline. And it's like, I fully admit I listen to some crap music.
Yes, you do.
But you know what? I love my crap music.
And
because
that's okay.
because it does it gives me what I need out of it. You know when I'm listening to some really bad Kesha, and don't get me wrong, I really love Kesha, but when I'm listening to like some of her music and I know that it's bad, I'm like, I don't care. You know why I'm listening to it? Because I know it's bad and trashy, and I like that. So it's
and Alan absolutely does not like my techno or drum and bass or EDM or because
I come and go on all that stuff. I like a lot of I love Daft Punk, and I like some Daft Punk, I should say. And I like, you go back to some 90s, some Chemical Brothers or Dust Brothers or Orbital or some of that stuff. I'm fine, Prodigy, stuff like that. A lot of that electronica. Yeah. I like a lot of that stuff. I like some EDM. The only problem with EDM is that after a while it all starts sounding the same to me because that stuff is designed a certain way. It's a certain beat per minute. It's a certain. I mean, it's almost like a blueprint with a lot of that stuff. And it's just
I'm not going to argue the ins and outs of it, but I would disagree with you to some point. But then again, I'm a drummer and I deal in rhythm.
Right, but that's the thing that they've said about EDM. It's like, oh yeah, it's 120 beats per minute, and blah blah blah. It's like all right. The two things they always say about it.
That depends on what style it is.
The two things that I always heard, and this is from people who were in the scene and stuff like that. They're like, yeah, predominantly it's 120 beats per minute. It's in the key of A. That's the two things that
depending on what style you're listening to.
And I know it's not a blanket across there, but that's kind of the base. Again, that's the baseline for a lot of that stuff. So it starts sounding a little after to me. That's just to me. Again, subjective.
Yeah.
Subjective. That's all it is. I'm not saying I hate it. I like some of the stuff. Sometimes I hear it. I love the bass drops in EDM. Love the bass drops in EDM. I'm like, dude, I wish rock music had some stuff like that.
I'm trying to figure out how we went from Halloween to this argument.
I know, it's because it's what we do. Especially when I haven't slept much and I've had like almost a pot of coffee today. So it's
this is only a pot of coffee?
It's more the sleep deprivation than anything.
Kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm on my second pot. I'm about to fall asleep over here.
You also got me by a few pounds, and you also slept last night, didn't you?
About 5 hours.
Yeah, that's more than I got. So, anyway, so yeah, I recommend Halloween Kills. How about you?
Oh, this is 3 thumbs up.
3. I'm not even going to ask.
Cut one off of somebody else so I could hold it up. It's a slasher flick. I got to have extra digits.
It's a family show. I'm going to be nice.
Why start now?
So anyways, guys, thank you so much. Please go and check out our social media. We have links for all of it in our show notes.
There you go. You finally spit it out.
Got it there. Like I said, it's been a long day. And also, and not just our social media, but also you can email us. Our email address is there. I know, dude. I am running down like you wouldn't believe.
You're about to fall over.
I think I
have
just about shot my entire load on this thing right now. Like we're gonna click stop, and I'm just gonna fall over. This is like
it's a very good chance. Yes, it is. So social media, email,
one more thing.
Discord.
Sorry, I want to send out a special sorry to Aria for not getting her on here tonight. We tried to have her on, but our schedules didn't line up. But we're still planning on having her back at a later date to talk about something. I don't know. But
from the last episode, we just turned the mic on.
We got really good reviews on her, so I'm like, yeah, we'll definitely have to bring her back at some point. So anyways, guys, thank you so much. I am Alan Smith.
I'm the other guy, Big Dave.
And remember, Halloween kills.
Kills.